It's not a south, east, west, north. You just see everybody. It's not a Christian, Muslim, and whatever.
Traditional institution to the rescue. Leaders strategize on fixing the state of the nation.
We will continue to cut your taxes, cut regulations.
You can choose a Medicare-like option. We're going to increase subsidies.
It's election day in America. Incumbent President Trump and former Vice President Biden await fate as Americans have their say.
It is confirmed that you just decided that you were not going to take a second test, in spite of the public health challenge that it poses.
Travelers evading COVID-19 PCR test may have their passports suspended. And journey to end of estimated electricity billing climaxes in nation's capital with mass metering of households. Hello, good evening. It's nice to have you join us on the news tonight. I am Joseph Johnson in Abuja. With me are Dotun Ogoyemi in Lagos and Abdurrahman Usman Jibrila in our Sokoto Network studio. Well, let's start on a business note tonight because Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has been speaking on the development of sustenance of viable enterprises, which he notes is no longer dependent on the size of the corporation and related factors, but sound ethical practices imbibed by all stakeholders. The Vice President was speaking at the virtual 2020 conference of the Institute of Directors held this Tuesday, where he explained that frequent clashes between conscience and wrongful behavior will eventually create a toxic work environment and destroy corporate objectives and visions. While emphasizing the grave danger of unethical practices, Vice President Osinbajo said local and international investors have greater access to information and more options than ever before, and that the slightest whiff of scandal can destroy value built over the years. The Vice President states that the local and especially the international examples of the collapse of companies thought to be too big to fail and brand names that had even once been associated with integrity and strong business ethics is a strong reminder of how brittle edifices built on weak business ethics are. Now, hot on the heels of the NSAS protest across the country, the National Council of Traditional Rulers has converged on Abuja. Apart from the state of the nation, another matter on the agenda is the proposal to reinstate the status of traditional institution in Nigeria. Of course, in Nigeria Constitution. Victor Azu reports.
The NSAS protests and the disruptions that followed shook the nation. The vibration was also felt by traditional institutions across the country, and as custodians of Nigeria's cultural heritage with proximity to the people at the grassroots, this emergency meeting of the National Council of Traditional Rulers is to support ongoing efforts by government to address the situation.
This August gathering will passionately examine the issues and come out with formidable and applicable advice to the government on the way forward.
The recognition of the invaluable wisdom of traditional rulers makes the outcome of the meeting an eagerly anticipated one by the government.
Let me assure you that government eagerly awaits your recommendations as inputs I'm sure will reflect the true desires and aspirations of majority of Nigerians from all geopolitical zones.
Despite giving kudos to the government for some steps already taken, the monarchs want government to do more.
You can see all of us mixed. It's not a south, east, west, north. You just see everybody. It's not a Christian, Muslim, and whatever. That's how we want Nigerians to be, and that's what I want our politicians to emulate in working towards a better country.
Every time, come back to your constituency. We like what the president just did recently by announcing that all ministers should go back to all their constituencies. It's something that we want to continue to encourage you to be doing from time to time, We need to bring governance to people.
The meeting now goes into a closed-door session, and when the door opens next, expect a robust position on recent developments. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
The Eastern Nigeria People's Assembly is acknowledging what it described as prompt response of government to the NSAS demands, which indicates willingness to address the issues raised. President General of the Assembly and the immediate past Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Osani Oguru Sani, at a media briefing in Abuja, explained that patience is required to effect certain adjustments in policies and institutional content. Timothy Yusuf reports.
Although it is constitutional for citizens to demand certain rights from government through peaceful protest, this group under the banner of the Eastern Nigeria People's Assembly believe that all peace-loving citizens should understand that some of the matters of concern raised by the NSAS protesters have constitutional significance, which cannot allow a fiat executive order to take effect. This, they say, implies that time is essential for addressing some of the issues.
Discipline is very important. Discipline doesn't just mean punish a man. Self-discipline is also there, which suggests restraint against what is against the rule of law.
Having witnessed the ugly incidents of NSAS protest and the accompanying fallouts, the Assembly notes that it is the responsibility of all to rebuild the nation through conscience search, psyche reconstruction, and a re-engineering of values. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, has visited damaged structures by hoodlums in Anambra State who cashed in on the NSAS protest to wreak havoc. Chinyere Okoye reports that a visit, which was at the instance of President Muhammadu Buhari, is to ascertain the level of destruction in the state and report back to the presidency.
And their entourage, who were conducted round by those at the helm of affairs of the facilities damaged, were at the Anambra State Revenue House and the head office of the Operation Clean and Healthy Anambra Osha Brigade, both in Awka, the state capital. The team also inspected the level of destructions at the Nigeria Police Divisional Headquarters, Ogidi, Idemili Local Government Headquarters, also in Ogidi, as well as the police station in Nnobi, Idemili South Local Government area. Other places visited were the Central Police Station, Police Barracks, and the Area Command Headquarters in Nnewi, where property worth several millions of naira were also lost.
And our condolences go to the families that lost their loved ones, whether they were lost as protesters, as vandals, and as policemen, members of the armed forces.
The minister, who condemned the wanton destructions in the places visited, added that what has happened is a wake-up call to government at all levels.
So we as government, we will do all in our power to assure them. The Empower program, we're going to fast forward it now. Luckily, our 2021 budget for NDE, we have so much to teach our young ones in terms of vocation so that they can have skills.
Well, I'm very pleased that the President, Muhammad Buhari, sent his ministers to go around the country to see for themselves the extent of the damage that his state suffered or incurred.
Dr. Ngige also appreciates the efforts of philanthropists in Nnewi who have pulled resources together to repair some of the damaged structures. From Awka, Chinyere Okoye, NTA News.
Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed says no government in the history of Nigeria has ever put in place genuine and realistic measures towards alleviating poverty and creating jobs for youth like the Buhari administration. The minister stated this in Kaduna while briefing the northern governors and other critical stakeholders on the efforts made by the administration in impacting on Nigerians through a number of programs. Muhammad Umarajingi reports.
This high-powered engagement with critical stakeholders in the north was to take stock and chart a workable way forward particularly regarding youth empowerment initiatives. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Muhammad made a presentation titled Fact Sheet on government initiatives targeted at youth, women and the vulnerable.
Long before the NSAS protest, the federal government had put in place initiatives targeted at youth, women and the vulnerable groups.
He recounted some of the administration's programs, beginning with the most recent, the 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survival Fund, Empower, NTech, N-Agro, Farmer, Trader Money, Digital Youth Nigeria, and graduate internship schemes.
And then there's the public works scheme, which the government has put in place, which is employing 1,000 people from each of the 774 local governments of the Federation. And these are largely youth and women.
As they set up committees to consolidate on the existing gains of the programs highlighted by the Information Minister, the hope and prayers by these stakeholders and the entire region is for the youth to adequately leverage on the opportunities for more gainful endeavors. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Marajingi, NTA News.
Let's take you now to the United States of America, where Americans today voted to decide who leads the country for the next 4 years. The contest is between the incumbent Republican Donald Trump and the Democratic challenger Joe Biden. Musa Babaliu has been following the development and filed this report.
President Donald Trump is facing a major challenge to lead the country for another 4 years as his first tenure ends as the President of America.
We will continue to cut your taxes, cut regulations, support our great police.
Joe Biden, former Vice President to Barack Obama of Democrat, is Trump's major challenger.
It's time to stand up. It's time to take back our democracy. We can do this. We're so much better than this.
More than 100 million Americans have already voted by physical appearance and by mail. National polls have, for weeks, shown Biden leading Trump's nationally by about 7 to 8% points. However, it may be days before the result is known, especially if legal challenges focused on the fact that postal ballots are accepted in the event of the tight race. There is also fear about possible unrest. Several cities are boarding up buildings in anticipation of possible protests, including around the White House and the New York City. Musa Baba Ali, NTA News.
Joining me in the studio now to discuss the U.S. presidential election is Nigeria's former Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN, Ambassador Usman Sarki. Ambassador, you're welcome to NTA Network News.
Thank you. Pleased to be with you.
All right. Now, Americans have gone to the polls.
Yes.
From what you know and public opinion,
yes.
What are the chances for both candidates?
Well, from the look of things, it's going to be a very tight race. Sometimes projections, by pundits and by polls may not give you the accurate picture of the end result. But from projections so far, Joe Biden, the challenger, the Democratic candidate, is leading, or was leading until yesterday by 5 or 6 points. So it's quite likely that from the projections, Vice President Joe Biden is going to actually, lead in the elections. But, the American electoral system is very complicated. The early votes, which, came in by postal, over 3 million votes, will be counted. And legal challenges may surface in terms of the validity of some of those votes on the side of the Donald Trump camp. Then the early votes of over 100 million, 102 million by this evening, which was cast, all along across the 50 states, may take a while to count. And then overseas votes coming from U.S. armed forces, stations and their families across the world. Yeah. So it's not something that we'll immediately know in the next 2 or 3 days.
Well, how would you describe the reaction, I mean, and the body language of Donald Trump insisting, to know the result of the polls?
Well, this evening, Donald Trump at Arlington, he went to the the Republican National Convention headquarters to address the staffers there. And he told them that he doesn't like the idea of losing, that he likes to win and he doesn't like losing. So it is some sort of signal he is sending that loss to him may not be acceptable.
And one would want to ask, is that democratic?
Well, democracy is being redefined globally now. Populism is taking over from traditionally known democracy. And the coming of Donald Trump in 2016 to today, he has virtually turned American politics inside out and upside down. He has distanced the government, the president, from the establishment, and also caused certain instability in the rock-solid structures of politics in America. So we are witnessing a situation where a mob can actually decide how the American elections go in terms of armed uprising, which everybody is fearing in America today.
Exactly.
And businesses and offices are being boarded up, even in Washington. The White House itself is fenced by three, I think, fence, wire fence. So these are new things to Americans. This militant, right-wing, extreme, parties, mostly led by or people by white people, is causing ripples across the American election system, electoral system. Add to that complication, you have the electoral system, which is unique to America, into the electoral college system, whereby electors, 538 of them, if you get 270 of the electoral votes, you are going to actually be elected. That was how Donald Trump actually got elected. When Hillary Clinton actually had the popular vote.
I was just about to come to that. Yes, how would you marry during the last election, Hillary Clinton was said to have won the popular vote, but then at the electoral college, she lost it there. How do you see this playing out this time around, considering unfolding events?
Yes, well, it will play out. It is part of the electoral system. It's a constitutional provision in America, actually, to have the electoral college. And today, as we are speaking, the election today actually comprised of electing the electors in the states, in the 50 states. So every state has a number of electors who will form the electoral college. And in that way, if any candidate gets 270 out of the 538, he gets elected. But the Electoral College works on the basis of the majority of voters casting their vote in that state to the candidate. So it will go either way. But Joe Biden, from the early returns, seems to have actually an edge over President Trump. If you notice the way the election campaign has played out, there was very little in terms of discussing the economy until a few days ago, and then there was very little in discussing foreign policy. So it was really the COVID issue which became the most prominent electoral issue, the campaign issue. Whether lockdown should be entertained or not, who will be the lockdown president and who will be the open-up president. So they worked on the fears and apprehensions of Americans on both sides. One is saying, if you elect the other, he is going to lock you out. He is going to disturb your lives, your businesses. The other is saying, if you elect the other, more Americans will die because he did not observe the protocols of COVID. Yes. You will adopt a laissez-faire approach to it, and you are going to die more and more. So the central theme of the elections this year, until late, was COVID-19. Not foreign policy, not defense, not security. In fact, not the economy. Until a few days ago, when the the GDP of America rose, then Trump is using that as his achievement.
Okay, now let's just look a bit at the security.
Yeah.
Talking about militia groups in some parts of the U.S.
Yes.
Some for Biden, some for Trump.
Well, mostly for Trump.
Mostly for Trump, yes, actually. But then, how does that impact, the country as it is?
Well, Americans are known to have this, one of their amendments, under the constitutional amendment, the right to bear firearms. And particularly, this is a right which the white population in America see it as the last bastion of their freedom, the last bastion of their security, to own firearms and to organize themselves as owners of firearms under, for instance, the National Rifle Association. So it is a constitutional issue that no president wants to tamper with very seriously, because once you do that, you are now going into the realm of constitutional law, the constitutional amendments and changes. And that will drag you in the 4 years of your presidency even. So it is a very serious issue. And the NRA and the gun-bearing, the gun lobby, they know the implications. And they spend millions of dollars campaigning every year to dissuade any administration from taking drastic actions, no matter the issue, to control arms or to make firearms an equation that is not part of the elections in America.
Okay, just before we wrap up, I just want to ask you this question. Talking about bilateral ties and mutual interest, how will the outcome of this election affect Nigeria and Africa as a whole?
Well, I think, for the last 4 years, we have seen America's disengagement, from Africa or with Africa. Donald Trump did not show much interest in Africa. He showed a lot of interest in the Middle East and other parts of the world, but not with Africa. I think the reverse will be the case with Joe Biden when he wins. He has this empathy with Africa since the time of his, as a young senator, when he took on the apartheid lobby, to fight the apartheid, and he continued his interest in Africa. And I think, the interest he has shown in Black Lives Matters is also a pointer that he is going to engage more and better than Trump with Africa and with Nigeria.
Thank you for explaining all that to us. Thank you very much indeed. Nigeria's former Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN Ambassador Usman Saraki. Thank you for staying with us here.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's quickly go on a break. More stories when we return. Stay with us.
A scorecard like no other. In place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years, the creation of 75 billion naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic.
Already Don't touch me. I will get you arrested.
Carefully. Very, very witty.
Stepping stones to bigger things. That's our philosophy at Premium Pension. And so no matter the size of your money, our team of expert fund managers invested wisely and actively to make sure your money is always working as hard as you do. After all, the things we're building today can help shape your future in the long run. And with the right partner by your side, the one thing you're sure to do is soar. Premium Pension. Active today, premium tomorrow.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool.
Wow.
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Do you know that social media is not good or bad, and that it is you who is using it that is either good or bad? Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, verify the information, and reflect before sharing it. Now, are you a good social media user? Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source for a better Nigeria.
This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
You're still watching NTA Network News with me, Joseph Johnson. Let's now turn to the legislature, where the Senate has continued with the scrutiny of the 2021 budget, with various standing committees harping on the need for government's MDAs to focus on post-COVID-19 sensitive projects. Ignatius Nkwo reports that the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Water Resources and Interior appeared before respective Senate committees.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyama, before the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, defended the 83.4 billion naira 2021 budget of the ministry, with 394.1 million to be spent on Nigeria's permanent representation to ECOWAS.
You know, we've been trying for a long time, for the last 5 years, to see how we can, computerize and have a 21st century ICT architecture.
Most likely, from here, we initiate and put in some money into the budget for you to be able to start.
The committee also scrutinized the 1.3 billion naira 2021 budget of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria. At the Senate Committee on Water Resources, the Minister Suleiman Adamu explained that the 162.8 billion naira allocation to the ministry will focus on ongoing priority projects which cut across all the geopolitical zones, as the Ministry of Interior provided justification for its 2021 budget of 5.2 billion naira, with a call for support from the National Assembly in rebuilding its vandalized structures.
You see it like that. It's not that there are specific projects going on for now. It's a master plan that is being developed for the country.
Infrastructure of the corrections. We are looking at it as a government, and I believe the National Assembly will support us to quickly renovate, rehabilitate, and rebuild.
To see that we have adequately taken care of the needs of the correctional services, especially with regards to the rehabilitation of the destroyed correctional centers.
The Managing Director of the National Inland Waterways Authority, George Mogalu, also defended the agency's 2021 budget before the Senate Committee on Marine Transport. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has presented a budget proposal of about 7.3 billion naira to the Senate Committee on Information and National Orientation for the year 2021. Anthony Forson reports.
The over 7 billion naira budget proposal summary through its budget line and amount proposed indicate that personnel will get 4.9 billion naira, overhead 900 million naira, while capital as it relates to information sector will take 1.9 billion. And capital common to both information and culture will get 417 million naira. Giving financial performance analysis for the year 2020, the minister explained that the percentage released as at September 2020 stood at 72%.
The committee understands through our various interactions that the burden on the ministry to execute its mandate, it's onerous and needs a lot of resources.
When the senators sought to know certain details as to funds expenditure, the minister explained that low funding, prioritizing activities and projects is the only way his ministry can remain active.
We prioritize, and if for 2021, it's precisely those areas that were not given money last year that I want to put emphasis. It's because of my own priority, given the my overall view of the ministry, sir. All that will depend on what I have. If what I have is not up to what I need, I will still have to prioritize.
On the part of the committee's chairman, Danladi Sankara, improving funding for the ministry is a must and will be pursued.
There are so many schedules with our ministry, and it's our duty to try all what we can do to interfere with the matter. We have to contact the Minister of Finance and also Budget Office so that to consider the allocation given to information. So I think we'll try for that.
The Federal Ministry of Information and Culture has a statutory role to manage the image and reputation of the people and government of Nigeria. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And the economic outlook for Nigeria in 2021 is positive despite the current recession, the second in the last 4 years. Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed said this during a budget defense session with the House of Representatives Committee on Finance. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports on this and other budget defense meetings.
As at the third quarter of 2020, said the Minister of Finance, revenue generation has hit 70% despite the coronavirus pandemic, which caused a slowdown in all sectors. She added that the 2021 budget will expectedly help bring the country out of recession.
Considering the constraints that the country is going through in terms of economic slowdown, we'll say that the revenue performance is still a reasonably good one compared to what we were expecting.
Our role of oversight will be more effective if we are able to have a real-time revenue monitoring system in place rather than the present approach of our post-mortem monitoring.
The Minister of Agriculture, Sabon Nono, during an engagement with the House Committee on Agricultural Services, gave a rundown of strategies outlined towards research-driven agricultural activities for food security and employment generation.
Our colleges are also encouraged to improve their student intake. The ARCN has also been given approval to commence the process of establishing an agricultural radio station, which is expected to contribute to enhance the delivery of agricultural information to farmers.
The country has witnessed serious hardship due to the impact of COVID-19, thereby depleting our national food reserve. We must therefore ensure that production is accelerated.
The issue of inadequate funding to foreign missions again came up when the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyema, appeared before the House Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Most of our missions have not been able to meet a number of core obligations. Health insurance, for instance, education supplement, electricity and other utilities, rent,
and travel and staff entitlements.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, alongside its missions abroad, remain the window and mirror through which the global community sees our country, Nigeria.
Meanwhile, Chairman House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development, Representative Olododo Cook, says the committee is not satisfied with the presentation of the Director General, Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research, as guidelines were not adhered to. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
To the telecoms industry now, where telecoms operators and consumers have been assured of improved regulatory actions that will protect their interest, ensure equitable gains through digital services in the country. The Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, Professor Umar Dambata, said this while speaking with ICT correspondent on the state of the sector. While highlighting the achievements of the Commission during his first term in office, Professor Dambata said the Commission has credited the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the federal government with spectrum piece to the tune of over 300 billion naira.
The contribution of the sector to GDP stands, as we were talking about, at 14.3%. I think with the exception of the agri sector, there's no sector that has contributed as much. And if the percentage contribution is not even appreciated, then this is equivalent to 2.3 trillion naira in monetary terms.
Owing to complaints by Nigerians on data charges and usage, Professor Dambata says the Commission has decided to undertake forensic audit to check illegalities in the provision of data services in the country.
We have introduced innovative things to protect the consumer, but do not disturb, where subscribers can be able to protect themselves from unsolicited text messages.
Professor Dambata was recently reappointed as the Executive Vice Chairman of NCC for a second term in office, and he expressed the hope that Nigerians will continue to enjoy effective regulations moving forward. Travelers who are evading COVID-19 PCR test after arriving in the country will have their passports placed on suspension for a minimum period of 6 months henceforth. Chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 Boss Mustafa says the sanction is necessary to reduce the risk of COVID-19 importation.
The reopening of the nation's airspace and other socio-economic sectors after the COVID-19 lockdown is not without attendant risks. PTF statistics indicate that 2 out of every 3 passengers arriving in the country are refusing the mandatory PCR test.
The major concern now, in addition to the community transmission that is going on, is the one that is going to be reimported. Those that have not carried out the second in-country test will be given an opportunity to explain why they have not. And certain considerations will be put in place. But if it is confirmed that you just decided that you are not going to take a second test, in spite of the public health challenge that it poses, definitely sanctions will be applied.
Acknowledging general disregard for COVID-19 guidelines among Nigerians, the PTF notes that state governments have no excuse for the declining rate of testing and contact tracing.
Every state has received at least R1 billion. The state governments have received the single largest bulk of the PTF funding that has come from the federal government. A total of up to 50 billion naira went to the state governments. So we now have enough resources at the state level to be able to push for increased testing and improved surveillance.
There is consensus among PTF members that Nigeria is not yet out of the woods, and considering the long wait for a COVID-19 vaccine, taking responsibility by observing all non-pharmaceutical guidelines is imperative. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
The National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons is about to commence the project construction for the Resettlement City Rehabilitation and Integration Program. The project is targeted at relocation and rehabilitation of internally displaced persons across the country. Federal Commissioner Senator Bashir Garba Muhammad emphasized this while in audience with delegates of the African Union Development Agency, a new partnership for Africa's development, who seek partnership with the Commission on the resettlement plan.
As you can see, our commission is about to commence the construction of these resettlement cities in about 4 states before the end of the year. And this is just the first step. As soon as we commence that, we are going to start the collaboration with the NEPAD so that we can see how we can restore their means of livelihood.
And we're here to capital to ensure that these people have their total liberty and independence is carried out. In the area of this commission is trying to give them a permanent home. So it's a welcome development.
Resettlement City project is expected to host 600 households, with each estate having adjoining farmlands, markets, primary healthcare center, learning center and other facilities to stimulate livelihood support for the IDPs. Let's now join Dotun in Lagos for the next set of reports. Dotun.
Thank you, Joseph. 3 cases were heard today at the Lagos State Panel of Inquiry on SARS and the Lekki Tollgate shooting. Footages were also submitted by the Lekki Concession Company as part of evidence by the company on the Lekki Tollgate incident. Jennifer Igwe was at the hearing.
The hearing started with the case of 34-year-old Ndukwe Ekekwe versus SARS. The petitioner narrated how he was arrested February 16, 2018 at his shop in Alaba International Market, Lagos by SARS officers without stating his offense. Ekekwe said he was stabbed severally, tortured, his shops vandalized and looted. The petitioner, in an emotion-laden voice, narrated how the officers pushed down a 2-story building. He sustained spinal injuries that left him crippled. Today, he is in a wheelchair. The second case, Okoliago Abunike versus SARS, was not heard because the counsel to the petitioner was not in court. Both his case and that of Ndukwe Ekekwe were adjourned till 13th of November 2020 for further hearing. The managing director of the Lekki Concession Company, Abayomi Omomuwa, was also in court and reaffirmed their earlier stance that the surveillance CCTV cameras at the Lekki toll gate were not removed.
It remained there until about some time later in the day around 8 o'clock when it was tampered with and we couldn't get any network anymore.
Omomuwa also informed the panel that the CCTV camera functioned without audios. He submitted footage from the camera to the panel as evidence. Then the counsel to the LCC requested that the company be given back the toll gate for them to have access to take stock of the level of damage there. But the chairman of the panel said no, because they are still reviewing vital evidences and information concerning the case and may need to revisit the toll gate. So the case was adjourned till Friday, November the 6th in Lagos. Jennifer Igwe, NTA News.
The Lagos State Commander of the Nigerian Police recorded several losses during the recent mayhem in the state. They range from loss of lives to vandalism of stations. With morale of personnel dampened, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, visited the command to assess the situation and support the officers and men to rise above the setback. Nosa Usula has details.
The Inspector General, who also visited Lagos to commensurate with the state governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu over the destruction in the state, said the policemen should see what happened to them as part of the risks that comes with the job. The police boss, however, admitted that the morale of the men of Nigeria Police is down, but encouraged them not to be demoralized by the ugly incidents.
By the nature of policing, we are always exposed to danger. And now that this has happened, it shouldn't discourage us from performing our constitutional duties. And because it is true that some of them, their morale has been dampened, but our visit has kind of encouraged them not to relent in performing their constitutional duties by coming out to protect lives and property.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu assured residents that his administration is willing and committed to cooperate with the Nigeria Police Force.
The Inspector General of Police, who is on a fact-finding tour of the state and was deemed fit to pay us a council visit, and he had come here to commiserate with us as a state government and as the governor of the state. And we have had very useful conversation, advice, collaborative discussion.
The Inspector General of Police also visited the Obas Palace and some police stations across the states. In Lagos, Nusa, Usula, NTA News.
Let's now take another break. Network News continues shortly.
And protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white cloths, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it. Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white cloths, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Ah, Helen Paul! Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I have been using it for years.
Oh, madam. The regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes.
To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains remover. Harpic sticker formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergent and bleach.
Wow! Now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
The 7th high-level meeting of Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC Russia Energy Dialogue has highlighted that the partnership with the Russian Federation has evolved into a permanent transformative force for good in the energy market, one that has had a profound positive effect on the industry and the global economy. OPEC Secretary General Mohammad Sanusi Barkindo lauded the tireless efforts, wise counsel and strong support afforded the dialogue by Minister of Energy of the Russian Federation, Alexander Novak, and said that he has become the reliable and dependable bridge between OPEC and non-OPEC.
This dialogue connects the short, the medium, and the long terms. To put it simply, our dialogue and the broader Charter of Cooperation will be vital to both the Russian Federation and OPEC as we look to navigate the future energy transition. It is our deeply held conviction that we need to work together step by step and challenge the misconception that the oil and gas industries are not part of our energy future, and that the future is one that will be dominated by alternative energy sources.
OPEC-Russia Energy Dialogue also expressed solidarity and support for the Austrian government and its people following the heinous terror attacks in Vienna on Monday, November the 2nd, 2020. They offered their heartfelt condolences to victims, their families and loved ones. President Muhammadu Buhari congratulates the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Wedo Terbari Nigeria Limited, Da Yohana Daliob, as he turns 70 today, November 3, 2020. President Buhari joins family members, friends and professional colleagues to celebrate the milestone with the energy engineer who has dedicated his life to finding solution to the challenge of the country. He commends the diligent efforts of Daliob in research, construction and distribution of alternative energy sources to households and institutions in Nigeria. The Abuja Electricity Distribution Company has flagged off national mass metering program in Abuja, targeting 900,000 meters in 18 months. Mia Ogidi reports.
Gadua Estate plays host to AEDC for a good reason.
The commencement of the national meter rollout program in AEDC.
The distribution of free meters begin here is also historic. Before this program, single-phase prepaid meter was for 48,000 naira, while three-phase 89,000 naira. But that is now history. 900,000 prepaid meters are to be given out free, thanks to the federal government of Nigeria.
The first phase, which begins today up to end of December, we are geared to install 101,000 meters. It's our duty to ensure that as quickly as possible we can meter our customers in our catchment area.
That this program will also help create jobs, and I think that for me is the heart of it, right? That we will be employing more people for installation, for survey, right? For monitoring.
Yes, it's one thing not for us not to have meters. It's another to complain of very high charges, high rates. I do hope that there is a leverage somewhere.
We are to pay for the energy consumed, but at the same time, you are not expected to pay for the energy you did not consume.
I want to thank you because you are the leading disco north of the Sahara, and we are excited to be part of this event.
Energy accountability is the goal. This goodwill is not only for the FCT, but also for Kogi, Nasarawa and Niger states, being the AEDC catchment area. Mia Ogidi, NTA News.
Abdurrahman in Sokoto has the next report.
Hello, good evening, Joseph, and welcome to Sokoto. Including and investing in youth is a panacea to youth restiveness in the country. This came to the fore at the inauguration of the maiden National Youth Day celebration held in Sokoto, the seat of the Caliphate. Dalhat Abdullahi has the report.
A maiden celebration of the National Youth Day is inaugurated in Sokoto State with leadership of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, including the leaders of the various ethnic youth groups from across the country.
We cannot have a society that will develop if we don't invest in our youth.
Nigeria and Africa is both a continent and a country highly dominated by youth.
What Nigerian youth want now, if you can help and lead the young people of this great country, is National Youth Conference, of which all our issues related to young people in this country will be discussed.
The president, ever since he has assumed office, has been bringing up a number of youth empowerment programs because he is fully aware that the youth of this country need to be empowered economically.
Sokoto State government has taken lead in encouraging youth and women involvement in the affairs of governance. Significant number of youth are appointed as commissioners, special advisors, and assistants by the Sokoto State government.
I wish to appeal to youth in Nigeria and Africa to endeavor to live in peace with one another. And I can tell you that Nigeria can and will, by the grace of God, become the pride
of the black people.
The Nigerian youth have, through the Not Too Young to Run, been advocating for inclusiveness in governance and special recognition at the helm of affairs. In Sokoto, Dalatu Abdullahi, NTA News.
That's it from here. Back to Joseph in Abuja for continuation of Network News.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. The burial of Atta Igala and President Kogi State Council of Chiefs late Agaibadu Idako Michael Ame Oboni II has been held with an appeal to Igala people to uphold the culture and unity of Igala Kingdom. The traditional chief in charge of the burial, Chief Al-Hassan Haruna Egwolab, made the appeal during the funeral rites of the monarch at Ojaina, Ida, Kogi State. Correspondent Usman Gambo reports.
The burial of late Atta Igala Idako Michael Ame Oboni II was done according to traditional rites at Ojaina, the graveyard and final resting place for all custodians of the throne of Atta Igala. The journey to Ojaina began with colorful cultural performance, followed by a procession from Atta Igala's palace. Gunshots rent the air amidst cultural displays by Ekwe masquerade.
The man is born as an icon. He lived as a hero. He died as a hero.
It is a journey of more than 5 kilometers, usually done on foot. Incantations and cultural songs were performed at every traditional point.
As he goes out of the palace today, that means our Atta Idako Ame Oboni goes out of the palace today.
The long walk and final departure of the late Atta Igala to Ojaina, where he joins his great ancestors, was not only memorable and quite significant for the people, but it has become yet another historic event captured forever in this traditional kingdom. The late Agabaidu Idako Michael Ame Oboni II was the 27th Atta Igala, died in August 2020. From Ida, Usman Gambo, NTA News.
And the Nigeria Sporting Community Association of Nigeria, a national Olympic Committees of Africa, ANOCA, the International Volleyball Federation, International Olympic Committee, and the Nigeria Engineering family have condoled with the President of Nigeria Olympic Committee and former President of Nigeria Society of Engineers and Koren Habu Gumel over the demise of his wife, Ajia Ladi Habu Ahmed Gumel. 60-year-old Ajia Ladi Gumel passed on Tuesday, October 2020 in Abuja following a protracted illness. The sympathizers praise Allah to grant her al-Janatul Firdaus and grant the family the fortitude to bear the loss. She has since been buried according to Islamic rites. And that's the news for tonight. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I'm Joseph Johnson. Bye-bye.